can't stop overcalculating? This is the reason why. I'll be breaking down exactly what I had to change to move from an average chess player to now a feeder master, guys. So stay tuned. Alright, so let's get right into it. So if you're looking at this position right now, it's white to play. What would you play in this scenario? Remember, I'll even give you chances to pause, so pause now. So let's get right into it. If you're looking at this scenario, yes, it's always good to check your forcing moves. So always look for the checks, the captures, the threats. But what happens when you're doing this like way too deep? It's like unnecessary. Like here, persons would be like, all right, check, and they're like, wait, that doesn't work. And they're like, all right, what if I do knight check? And like, it doesn't matter what they're doing. They don't see like a way in which they're crashing through. So they just end up like sacrificing pieces and checking stockfish after the game. And they're saying like, oh, I missed the win. Now, instead of just lashing out or you can't master your patience, you're just trying to find something right away. If you're calculating and you're checking like forcing moves 3 moves deep and you're not seeing anything, it could be a case where you simply need to improve a piece. Like your rook on d1 isn't participating. Now by you swinging pieces, like adding more participants in the attack, that's where things start to click. I played rook to e1 and just won the game shortly after. Rook to e1, simply bringing a piece into the game. All it's doing is making the variations start to connect. You could be lacking material. So here, just showing you, if my opponent just plays like a normal move, then knight to e7 and queen to h8 is checkmate. And it didn't take much. All it could be is just one piece that is not participating. So ensure that for your chess, you're doing this. Don't overcalculate, improve, and let's get right into our next example. Now, for this one, we have white. White's rook is currently under attack by this knight. Now, you know, if you're a nice follower of my channel, we do not play chicken chess. The way in which persons start to overcalculate is like you're not even doing it properly. They're just looking at their opponent's moves. They're like, all right, my opponent is attacking my rook, so this is how I calculate. I'm like, rook to c1, bishop takes a4, and oh my god, my queen is going to get discovered, attacked, and all that kind of stuff. If you're doing this, again, you want to put the chicken chess out the door, guys. Whenever you're calculating, the first thing you check is moves in your opponent's half of the board, and you try your best to add it with a counter attack if you're getting attacked. So remember, no chicken chess. We are going forward when you calculate. So when I'm calculating even for my opponent, I am checking his active moves as well. All right. So here, if I was black, I wouldn't just put my knight on c2 and start calculating if white is going to move his rook, because that is not active. I'm looking if he can find like a counter strike to me. We could go into more complex examples later down, but just for now, understand this. You check your active moves. And remember, for calculating, you want to be putting pressure on your opponent's position, like force them to react to you. And this is going to be your first test. Black just played the move pawn to h6, stopping the checkmate. How is your calculation at this moment? We look for checks or captures or threats. I'm like, q to f7 doesn't work. I mean, like, eventually you're going to know when to disregard or discard like completely garbage checks. But for starting out, you always want to implement this to get into the right habit, the right mindset, the right thought process for your games. Now, based on what I have just said with counter-attacking, what would you play in this position and why? Is it A, run away, or B, look to go forward with a counter-attack? And it's the same thing with black. When black is playing, I am not calculating for my opponent that after h6 he's going to move his knight. I'm like, what is the most aggressive move that my opponent can play forward in the position? This is known as the drawback principle. What was a piece defending before? Q to g6, and the opponent died. That is just instant resignation right then and there, guys. Like, there's no way to stop checkmate. And this is again how you need to start calculating. Active moves for your opponents, forcing moves whenever you're trying to find tactics. Combine all of this, and remember, no chicken chess. Getting into the third example. Now here, we have a scenario where it's not so obvious to some persons how white is crashing through. Now, we have what we call a majority in terms of pieces swarming the black king side. And we need, whenever you have like more attackers versus defenders in a scenario, that is more than a green light to actually just start looking for sacrifices. Now we have one piece currently defending this knight, and we need to start looking for forcing moves in our opponent's camp. Now that means the checks, again, the captures and the threats. Now, I mean, like, this is obvious. So knight to h6 check is indeed a check, right? Most persons would miss this in their games if they're not using the right thought process, as in they don't even consider it. That's the problem. You start to see these moves once you start thinking about it the right way. Instead, in the game, what was played is this beautiful knight takes to g7. And believe it or not, this is absolutely finished. This rook is under attack. The knight is under attack. And this cannot be, I mean, he can't take it. Simply because of this and knight to f5 or even rook to f5. Knight to f5, and you guys are actually seeing what's happening. I could even put the rook there just to show you that pieces don't matter whenever you're winning. It's about the squares and controlling everything that is on the board. Look at the board, guys. All I did was sack some pieces and crash through. So whenever you have more attackers versus defenders, look for your forcing moves. 3 moves deep. You don't have to look at it like anything much deeper unless you're like, games like super complex, but on average, 3 moves deep, guys. All right, let's get into our fourth example. So here we have this position. All right, we're setting up the tactics. We realize that there is a very boxed in king to for white. What do we do for black in this scenario? Do we see a knockout? There's no entry points in the position. If you checked my first example, remember, if there's no knockout, like you're not seeing any checks, any captures, any threats that works in your scenario, look for a piece that is not really doing much and activate it. Knight to g4 was played in this game, and what are we doing now? The knight was doing nothing on f6. Now we brought it into play and attacked the weak pawn on f2, realizing that I am combining, again, improving pieces while looking for tactics. And again, remember that there are different types of tactics, so find out which ones you're struggling with and hammer them. Now, to protect the f2 pawn, bishop to f1 was played, and this could be a certain tactic that most persons don't know about, and it's called the drawback principle. Check what a piece was defending before it moved. And in here, it was the d1 square. Now, the more advanced you get into tactics, these moves will start coming to you extremely naturally. Now, we're going to be attacking these 2 pieces here. Remember that something was defending d1 before. So after q to d1, my opponent resigned. So this is captured. Then that is indeed checkmate, crisscross applesauce, and the queen and the king is forked, and there is no escape. Also, if the queen runs away anywhere, then it's going to be the same thing. Queen takes f1 is indeed checkmate. And finally, for persons who still want to know like what happens, yes, even after queen to e2, guys, it is still indeed checkmate. So check for the drawback principle. This one, if you're not using it in your games, this is the benefit of transferring puzzles to your actual games. You can actually see what a piece was defending before you crash through. Let's get into our final example. Now, for this one, if you see a good move, look for a better one. Now, instead of playing like 55 moves down the board and like the game could have been finished earlier, try to actually play accurately in your games. Don't just go for wins. Try for accuracy. And this improves your chess long term. So if your natural moves are like simply castling and taking the knight on g5. But whenever you're looking for tactics, tactics favors the side again that has the more coordinated pieces, that is more active. Here he has a loose queen on e7, and the fact that we combine that with a very weak king, what move would you play in this scenario? Pawn to f4. Very good, very good. I know that maybe 3 persons caught that. Nice. So pawn to f4. If this is captured, then his queen is gone off the board. And believe it or not, that is it, guys. The knight was dead. If the knight moves, then q to g3 would have been lights. This is all you need, guys. So with calculation, again, see a good move, look for a better one, check your forcing moves. For this one, if you don't see any checks, you don't see any captures, look for your threats. And boom, combining it with loose pieces, everything will start to make sense. Now, thanks again for watching, guys. Subscribe for more videos like this, like and share. Let's go.